Hey, here are 5 stupid things I've noticed about moon landing conspiracy theories. The Kubrick filmed the whole thing on a soundstage argument. One of the most well-known and preposterous claims of moon landing hoaxers is that the footage of the moon landings was actually shot here on Earth on a secret soundstage by none other than 2001: A Space Odyssey director and one of my favorite filmmakers, Stanley Kubrick.
One of the things that Stanley Kubrick used in his films to create the sense of a wide open area when they were actually filming on a soundstage was something called front screen projection, to make it look like you're standing in the middle of a wide open outside area or on the moon, when really you're inside of a studio standing in front of a green screen. You can clearly see, if you look closely, the dividing line between the actual set on the stage where it meets this large projection screen. There have been some moon images from the Apollo missions that show similar dividing lines. One of those images you're seeing here. And then you can clearly see what looks like a clear dividing line. The whole area of the background and this whole lunar background area is nothing but a fake. Now here's another Apollo image showing a similar scene where again we see a noticeable change in the moon dust. Almost as if, again, you were filming this on a soundstage. Here's another very mysterious image, and you'll notice that there are no tracks, either in front or behind the rover's wheel, as if the rover was lifted and sat down
now, never mind
in the dust.
That the footage depicts astronauts doing things like floating in zero gravity in the space capsule, walking in lighter lunar gravity once they had landed. This theory also asserts that NASA hired Kubrick to direct this project in 1968 when he was still in post-production for 2001. And if you believe that he would have allowed NASA to distract him from finishing his movie, you don't know dick about Stanley Kubrick.
Confession of sorts. It's about a movie I made that nobody is aware of, even though they've seen it. I perpetrated a huge fraud involving the United States government and NASA. Moon landing was fake. The moon landings all were fake. And I was the person who filmed it. I'm serious. Yeah. I'm dead serious. Joke. Nope. The conspiracy theorists were right on this occasion. They were right about. Don't you think it's important for people to know the truth? A massive fraud, an unparalleled fraud perpetrated against them.
The ignorance of hard scientific evidence. That moon footage that Kubrick supposedly faked on a soundstage.
I perpetrated a huge fraud involving the United States government and NASA. Moon landing was fake. The moon landings all were fake. And I was. Don't you think it's important for people to know the truth? A massive fraud, an unparalleled fraud perpetrated against them.
And add to that all the moon rocks and regolith that the astronauts brought back to Earth from the moon, and the fact that in 2009 the landing sites were photographed by a just have to pretend you don't see.
Yeah, like all the other evidence before this.
The number of conspirators required. Nearly 500,000 people worked on the Apollo project. 11 years.
Yes, son, that's why I came up with the saying of you can fool all the people some of the time and some of the people all of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time.
None of those hundreds of thousands of people has ever come forward with compelling evidence. It's not just the American public who they were fooling.
Have you pondered the thought that maybe they never wanted to experience an accidental death, a suicide, or possibly being publicly accused through the media as a child predator?
What about the Soviets? Moon hoaxers always seem to forget about the incredibly powerful and hostile country we were competing against.
Oh, you're so silly. The Soviets were the ones that were telling us about the Van Allen belt and how it couldn't be done. Kind of like Putin is trying to tell the public of America today about the media and what they're not telling the people, how bad the situation is.
The fact that Buzz Aldrin only punched Bart Sibrel once.
Oh, I am so tired. Why do you have to speak such foolery? Or that I have to speak again. Those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves. And under a just God cannot long retain it.
Moon landing conspiracy theories don't just offend me for their ignorance and their irrationality.
Oh, do you have an example of ignorance for us? Wow, yeah, that looks like really great academic pastimes there, mister. Right up there with literature and mathematics and research and hypotheses. Wow, you must be really smart.
Punching a landing hoaxer in the face is really the most beautiful thing that can. They're my heroes. Really.
Orion is getting ready to launch. Take astronauts deeper into space than we've ever gone before. For these missions, Orion has to be one tough spacecraft, withstanding high speeds, searing temperatures, and extreme radiation. Before we can send astronauts into space on Orion, we have to test all of its systems. For Orion's first flight, no astronauts will be aboard. We are headed 3,600 miles above Earth, 15 times higher from the planet than the International Space Station. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. An through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation.
A moon landing hoaxer in the skull with a moon rock?
Wow, yeah. So you must be one of them educated personas then, huh? Yeah. Well, that's just great. So, you know what? After watching your whole video there, I think the most intelligent thing that you said about the moon landing was...
Didn't happen.